Being in love is a very beautiful feeling. You have butterflies in your tummy and looking forward to getting married to the man of your dreams, as a woman is it's so beautiful. It's amazing, and it's something that is every woman's dream. Many women, because I've met a woman who was not looking forward to getting married. Daddy, I was shocked. Anyways, it's really exciting and it's a wonderful feeling when you're preparing for marriage, and you're wanting to spend the rest of your life with this amazing person. But sometimes when you are in that moment, there's some important conversations that you may forget to talk about, some important topics that you just push back or don't even come to mind. And you just think because you're in love with this person that you vibe check tick, yes, yeah, we're good, we're good. But if you're not careful, research has shown that when you don't have those conversations, they could actually be deal breakers in your marriage. Some of them end up leading to divorce. So I'm putting on my relationship coach hat today, and I'm encouraging you to talk about some of these conversations that I'll be sharing. They are real talks. There are 10 important real talks that you need to have before you say I do, before you walk down the aisle, before you sign the dotted lines, with the man of your dreams. So as women, I'll encourage you to talk about these things before you get married. Before I get into these 10 important conversations, I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, I'm just chilling on my couch in my house. Welcome. My name is Blessing Ekundayo. I'm a relationship coach, a medical doctor by profession in mental health specialty. I'm also a wife and a mother, and I'm the confident woman. My mission is to raise confident women who live fearlessly and unapologetically. So welcome to my world. Let's get right into it. If you're planning a wedding, if you're looking forward to getting married, these are 10 important conversations, 10 real conversations to have before you get married, before you say I do. And the first one, top of my list, is why do they want to get married? You need to find out, why does this person want to marry? Why do they also want to marry you? There are several billions of people in the world, options of other ladies that could get married to. So why you, and why do they even want to get married in the first place? To shock you. There are guys that marry for different reasons, because they feel like they're old enough, because they want children, because they want this, or because they want that. You want to also get into their world of what marriage really means to them. They see it as something that's is a lifetime commitment, or do they see it as something that is temporary? I'll do it because it's something I just need to tick the box. Yeah, marriage like a career. I've at least now I'm married. I've married. Yeah, whatever happens, let it happen. I've married. Some people are under pressure from their parents to get married, and they just married to fulfill all righteousness. And some people are wanting to get married so they can have a woman to call their own, and it's someone to just put at home. Yeah, that's my woman, that's my slave, or things like wrong mindsets. So you want to find out, why do they want to get married in the first place, and why what are they looking forward to for the future with regards to marriage? Is it a lifetime commitment, or is it something that is short-term or temporary? What are some things that will be like their deal breakers in marriage? You want to know all of those things, yeah, because it's very, very key. What does divorce mean to them? What will make them to think of divorce? In marriage, these are some questions that you want to ask when you ask why marriage. Why do you want to get married in the first place? So ask that question. Number two is, what would our finances look like? When you get into marriage as a woman, you may have debts, you may be student loan or whatever, you might have mortgage to pay, because there are many single women doing amazing things, in the world that we live in today. So all of these debts, and you may not have any debts to pay, you might be living freely. We also want to know what each other's what is his spending habit like, what does he also have debts, and things like that. What would our finances look like when we get married? Are we going to be having a joint account or single account? What do you think about joint accounts? You want to find out these questions. Is it okay to have a joint and separate accounts also? Yeah, talk about all of those things. What do you think about insurance? What do you think about buying a house if you guys don't have a house yet? Or some people believe in renting rather than buying a house. Talk about your finances. What do you think about investments? Do they even have any savings at all? ask those questions. Number 3 is children, yes or no. You'll be shocked. Not everybody wants children. So don't assume that your partner would want children because you want children. As a woman, some women don't want children, So if you don't want children and you're a woman, speak to your partner about it, whether they're also on the same page, if they're going to be happy with it, because they're women who, for example, you already have children, and you don't want any more children, so you just want a relationship, like a marriage for companionship. So it's important that you have this conversation with your partner. Do you want children? Don't you want children? If you don't want children, why don't you want children? They need to know, or you need to know if they don't want children. If you want children, how many do you want to have? Some people might want a football team, 11. Whereas you only want one, or you want to, can you come in between? Can you reach an agreement? Talk about it. And in regards to children, it's a very tricky one also, because what if you don't have children? If you want 11 children, or if they want 11 children, and you realize that you get married, you cannot have children. So what options would you be looking at? Would he be wanting to marry a second wife? When I talk about marriage, the first point, what's your idea of marriage? That's part of things you to ask. Is it one man, one woman, or one man, more than one woman, or one woman more than one man? People have crazy things, they think in the world today. So you want to find out those things also. If you can have children, are you open to other methods of assisted conceptions, IVF and things like that? Some women these days would prefer surrogacy. What are your thoughts about it? You want to have those discussions, because this period while you're in a relationship with someone, or you're in a courtship with someone, is a period for making, having these conversations and making decisions, going forward about our lives, about your lives. So you need to talk about it. Children, yes or no? How many? What if we can't have children? What do we do then? Talk about it. What's your communication style, your conflict style? That's number 4. How do we communicate? If I'm upset, how do I want you to talk to when I'm upset? How do you want me to talk to you when you're upset? What are things that will make you feel better when you're upset? Do you want me to validate you? Do you want me to acknowledge you? Do you want me to buy you gifts? What's your communication style? For example, some people, when they're stressed out, they rather that you just leave them to themselves, and let them just be, or are you the kind of person that you want me to come around you, give you a hug, give you a peg, send you messages, buy you gifts, things like that? What would you like? So that, because when you know how the person wants to be communicated with, then you know exactly what to do to make them happy, and if they're not happy, you know what to do to bring them back to their usual self. So talk about it. When we have misunderstandings, because there'll be misunderstandings, how do we fight fair? How do we make things right, so that one person doesn't feel neglected, or one person doesn't feel like they're the only ones making the sacrifice in this relationship or in this marriage? So you want to talk about that. So that's number 4. Number 5 is talk about your health problems. This cannot be overemphasized. Health is critical, and for example, if you have some medical or physical health challenges, you want to talk about it. Have you got high blood pressure? Are you diabetic? Do you have problems, like medical problems, from your parents that they've passed on to you, for example, or some conditions run in the family. For example, it could be cancer. As a woman, it could be that your grandmother had breast cancer, your mom also had breast cancer, and then you are having to do checks every year, because there's a high risk that you could also have breast cancer in the future. So talk about those things. It could also be that you've got some health challenges, like with your uterus, your womb. Some people have like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Some people have some significant health challenges, epilepsy and what have you, migraines, all of those things, some conditions that may affect you being able to conceive in the future. Talk about those things, because it's critical. It could also be your regards to your mental health. So some people are on medications also for their mental health, and you might be on medication, or they may be on medication, and everything looks good, but you're not aware that they're taking medications. But if you don't ask, I don't know why some people are so secretive. It's not okay. Transparency is very critical in a relationship. So you've got to ask, and hopefully they're telling you the truth. So ask this question, so that you know what you're getting yourself into. Whether you are ready to pay this price, whether or not you're ready to walk this journey with them, or whether they are ready to walk the journey with you. And it's okay to let them go if they don't want to, if they're not willing to walk the journey with you, in terms of they feel like, this baggage is too much. That's okay. They're not your person. You'll find your own person eventually, person that wouldn't see it as a baggage. Yes. So that's number 5. Talk about your health problems, your health challenges. What do they also think about, health insurance, because that's important. Do they think it's important, or do they think that, God is their healer, so no health insurance? Talk about it. Your plans for the future, that's number 6. What are your plans for the future? Are your plans your future plans, are they in alignment, in terms of your career, your vision, your dreams for the future, and all of those things? Like, it's very critical to have a conversation about it, where you're going to stay or live in the future. Because you can, for example, if I'm planning to go abroad to study, to improve myself in terms of my career, and you are planning to remain where you are, in terms of location, you don't see yourself traveling at all, then can we really work together? If I end up traveling, are you willing to come join me? Or, all of those things, you need to talk about it, how intense my career can be. For example, if you're going to marry a surgeon or a doctor, their shifts can be very, very demanding. Or you want to marry someone who is in the army or in the navy or in the military, talk about these things. Are you willing to make that sacrifice? What would your future be like? If you marry someone who is in the army, for example, they may be away for months. Can you deal with that? Can you deal with being alone, without them, and managing the children, things like that? So you need to talk about your future. You may not exactly have a complete picture of your future, but you can have potential ideas about what your future might look like, what you desire your future to look like, and see if both of you can merge that future. Can you work together? Because the Bible even says, can two work together except they agree? So if there's no agreement, then are we okay to be planning a marriage, or are we setting ourselves already? Are we setting ourselves up for failure already? So talk about this thing. So that's number 6. Number 7 is talk about your, how involved would your in-laws be, in regards to your marriage. Will your in-laws be people who, as a person, as a single person, you probably you're obedient to your parents, you listen to your parents, but will they then have rulership or control over your marriage when you eventually get married? Will they be the ones dictating how we should run our marriage, when we get married? So if, as a woman, if you're married to a mommy's boy, or a man that his mom tells him everything and he cannot say no to his mom at some point, then you're in for his mom controlling that marriage. So talk about this thing. How involved will our parents be in our marriage? When do we put boundaries? What are the things that we should not be sharing with our parents or our in-laws? It's very important. So would they be living with us, for example? Also, are we going to be housing them? It's okay to visit, but what are their thoughts? What are your own thoughts too? Do you want your parents to be living with you when you get married? Does he want, so talk about these things and agree, disagree, reach a decision eventually, because that's what is going to eventually work for your own marriage. So talk about the involvement of in-laws, not just parents, also siblings, brother, sister, in-laws, your sisters-in-law, brothers-in-law. Talk about them. Also number 8 is spiritual and doctrinal alignment. You need to talk about that also. These days, I would encourage you to marry someone who's a child of God, who is born again. I'm born again, and this. I talk I will talk about Christian related topics on my YouTube channel. So, because I'm a child of God, I'm proud to say that, any day, anytime. And as a woman, I would encourage you strongly to marry someone who is a child of God also. Don't marry someone who's an unbeliever. Don't marry someone who's not saved, because that's the beginning of the end of that marriage. It's just a matter of time. Yes, both of you might be like, I love him, he loves me. Those things are superficial. When marriage becomes deep, when you get into the deep things, then you realize that you're not compatible. That's the reality. So because two people cannot get except they agree. And if you cannot agree spiritually, what's the point? You want to pray, you cannot pray with this person because they have their own God or something. It's not worth it. Anyway, that's not topic for today. But the point is talk about spiritual alignment. Apart from that, in terms of your goals spiritually, you know, where God is taking you to, God's purpose for your life. Apart from that, also doctrines, doctrinal alignment. Also, some people, even though they are Christians, there's several denominations in our world today. But do you guys believe the same thing? If we don't believe the same thing, you know, when we get married, where are we going to be going to in terms of church? You know, that's part of what we need to talk about. Where would our children be going to when we have children? Also, are you going to be going to your own church? I mean, I was still going to my own church. And when we get our children, church would our children go to? You know, it's sometimes you see in marriage people, you know, come from different churches, and you find there are couples who, when it's time to go to church, they go to different churches. Yes, and it's just, you know, confusing. So marriage is a covenant. So agree, where are we going to be going to have that conversation? Very key. Number 9, you want to talk about sex and intimacy. Yeah, this is also very important. Talk about what sex means for you, what intimacy means for you, what you're looking forward to, you know. Are they even sexually attracted to you? Talk about it. You know, you want to talk about, you know, how often, how frequent are you, and you think you want to have sex every day, or, you know, several times a day, or you know what you're getting yourself into as a lady. You know, it's important to talk about those things also. Also in terms of trauma, sometimes you may have had some negative experiences with sex. You know, some of us might have been, you know, assaulted, you know, and it might impact it would likely impact your marriage in one way or the other. So it's important that your spouse, you know, your partner is aware, especially if you're a woman who has gone through that kind of experience. You know, you want him to be aware that this might happen. I've struggled with this sort of things, you know, in my life, or I've got this fear, I've got this issue. You know, talk about it. Very important. And what intimacy really means to you. It's not the time to practice it, please. It's not the time to practice it, right? But it's important to talk about it before you eventually get married. And last but not the least is talk about boundaries, you know, and your relationship, what's going to look like with the opposite sex. Yes, it's important you talk about it. Put boundaries in place. How can I help you? And also with exes, right, are we still going to be having conversations with our exes? Are we going to be calling them, texting them? If you say he wants to talk to your ex, are you happy for me to also talk to my own ex? You know, agree, talk about it, discuss. And if you're not comfortable with it, let him know, I'm not comfortable with you still having conversations with your ex. You know, I want you to, you know, stop talking to your ex, or I want you to put boundaries in place. You know, whatever you want to happen in marriage, this is the time that you take charge. You know, this is the time that you set the foundation for what you want in your marriage. So if you're not wanting him to talk to his ex, say it. Don't think that when we get married, that's when I will now tell him, now listen, now we are married. No, he's not going to listen. That's the truth. You cannot change a person when, because they've just, because now they are married, now you want to change. Don't think you're going to change any man. You cannot change any man who doesn't want to change. So don't carry a cross that is not meant for you. Make sure that you can reach an agreement what you are comfortable with before you eventually sign the dotted lines with this person, right? So what boundaries will both of you put in place? So it's vice versa. So it's not just for him, it's also for you, and how both of you can hold each other accountable, you know, so that at the end of the day you do what is best for your home, your marriage, right? So these are the 10 things that I have for you today. I hope you have picked a few things there, and I hope that your relationship is amazing, and hopefully also, and I trust that by God's grace, your marriage, the marriage of your dreams, would be beautiful and lovely and amazing too. So thank you so much for watching up until this point. If you're yet to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and leave me a comment also. Until I see you again another time, I'm the Confident Woman. Blessing Nekondayo is my name. God bless you. Bye.